You know nobody's coming ever to rescue you, right? Nobody gets a flower.
Hanrahan Live.
Today we speak to journalist Max Daly. He tells us about the evolution of illicit drugs and where they're headed in the future.
I remember the first time I saw your work was Narcomania. When I was a intern at Sabotage Times back in the day. I was like 22, 23. And they always would have books in there that like people had sent in to review, and that's like, someone's like, do you want this? I was like, yeah, cool. They're like, you look like you're into drugs. I was like, thanks. And I remember like reading it, I was like, fucking hell, I'd never seen like drug reporting like it. All I'd seen was like, 15 people have died from, what is it Limmy says? The designer drug ecstasy, you know what I mean? And so I was like, wow, this is actually incredible. So I always kept up to your work like from then. Can you explain to us how you got into drugs reporting? Because you look at it in a very different way. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, thanks for that. So I suppose I got into writing about drugs because I started working at a local newspaper in northwest London, like Kilburn Times, Wembley Observer, and there was quite a lot of sort of drug stuff going around then. You know, in the mid-90s, there was a lot of it was sort of the rise of sort of gangsterism in London and the crack cocaine sort of thing, and there was a lot of sort of muggings and shootings and in areas like Harlesden. So I started covering that, and I thought it was quite interesting. It was better than your average like summer fate, rain.
Were you at a local paper?
Yeah, local paper. Like, starting off in my career. And it was, the olden days when you didn't really have internet, no emails, and you literally had to go traveling around.
That was so nice.
It was insane. Yeah, like it was how we did it. I just don't know, but we did it. Anyway, so old school journalism, and I just found myself getting really interested in the sort of, I suppose, the crime and drug world through covering that quite a lot. Quite, the nitty gritty of all that. I just found it fascinating. Then I ended up working for the Big Issue magazine. And that's when the Big Issue magazine it's still okay now, but it was when it was staffed by a lot more journalists than it is now. And it was a real campaigning magazine, an independent, it's quite edgy, sort of like a precursor to Vice in a weird way.
My dad would always buy it when I was a kid. He'd actually read it as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a really good magazine. So I started writing a lot about homelessness and crime and drug addiction. I also, every week, I interviewed a homeless person about their life. It was called like Home Street Diary or something like that. And that sort of put me in a position where I was basically speaking to really what were really heroin and crack addicts on a weekly basis about their life and understanding them and all this stuff. And so I really got a lot of insight into what it was like in that world, why people became addicted to drugs, what their life was like, the things they had to deal with and cope with, and how addiction affected their lives. So I'd sort of already seen that sort of gangsterism from northwest London, and then I was seeing that sort of crack and heroin addiction when I was working at the Big Issue and writing a lot of stuff about, kind of starting to write stuff about drugs and crime at the Big Issue there as well. So I just started edging towards that world of sort of drugs and crime and addiction. I just found it fascinating because when you compared that to what you read in the mainstream press.
So different, yeah.
So different. They don't really speak to drug dealers. They don't really speak to drug users. It was all very sort of scapegoaty and very like black and white, cut and dry,
like
good
government
and evil.
Press release almost.
Government press release.
Yeah.
Everyone would just listen to the cops as well.
Yeah.
Like if the cops said it must be true. But the more I sort of found myself writing about this world, the more I realised what the cops were saying was a lot of rubbish, and what the government was saying was a lot of rubbish as well. And it was time to write stories about the drug and crime world by speaking to people in the drugs and crime world. Now, obviously, I'm not going to just take an average criminal's word for it. Oh, yeah, you must be right. But when you start sort of speaking to various people and building up the evidence, that's how you get the true reality of a situation. So I suppose that's what sort of like propelled me into that world. Then I ended up working in Australia, doing a bits and bobs, and then I ended up editing a magazine about drugs, this magazine called Drug Link, which is now dead, but it was all about drugs. Some of it was quite academic, some of it was sort of quite reportage and newsy, and it was drugs are all around the world, and I'll edit it and turned it into my little baby sort of thing.
I've seen, Erowid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen Drug Link mentioned on there before. Yeah, rings a bell. Yeah.
And Erowid is another classic sort of, thing, old school sort of drug thing. And Drug Link was sort of part of that scene. And so I was editing that. So again, I got deeper and deeper into the drug world and sort of just expanding my knowledge. And again, interviewing a lot more people involved in it, people who sold drugs, people who used drugs, people who had drug historians. So I just got going into this forest of drugs and crime. And then I thought, actually, fuck it. I know quite a lot about this world. I might as well write a book about it. That's what everyone else seems to do. So me and my mate Steve decided to both write a book about drugs, and we called it Narcomania. It was all about the British drug world, and our whole aim was to try and do a sort of a 360-degree view of what was going on in the British drug world by speaking to as many people as possible, including drug dealers and drug users and cops and politicians or whatever, and that was our attempt. And our sort of thesis in a way was, Britain has become sort of addicted to drugs in a way, not in just addicted to drugs themselves, but that the whole being of the country is sort of enmeshed with the sort of the drug world in many different ways. So then that came out, and then I started working for Vice and writing loads and loads of stuff about drugs for them.
How have you seen things change since you started, or at least finished, Narcomania to now? I know it's not that long, but I feel like so much has changed already.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Narcomania came out 2012. So what's that, like 14 years ago? Like a lot it's good to have recorded what was going on at the time there, but a lot has changed. I suppose since then you've had, mass legalization of cannabis in America. Now over half of American citizens can legally buy recreational weed, back then, they were only just starting it off, I think. Then you've got other countries trying it. You've got Uruguay, you've got Canada, they've legalized it, and you've got places in Europe like Germany are starting to experiment, and other countries too. So I suppose you've got a lot more sort of legalization and there's also been experiments in decriminalisation. So the policy world has changed a bit. And I would say in terms of the drugs themselves, the biggest shift I would say is the sort of the rise of synthetic drugs. It's like the tectonic plates of the drug world are shifting in the last sort of 10 years, where we've, traditionally drugs like, plant-based drugs, weed, heroin, cocaine have always been like the big drugs.
Originally was in the ground.
Yeah. That has been there a bit, but slowly, with the rise of synthetic drugs like methamphetamine and mephedrone and synthetic opioids, ketamine, you name it, all these sort of new psychoactive substances have started to rise and started to sort of, it's not dominate quite yet, but sort of they will end up dominating the drug world. That's what will happen. Is that
it will take over? Do you think completely?
It will dominate. So I think if we meet again in 10 years' time, I think that they will be dominating. They will, I think cocaine will probably be jumped on. But imagine, Trump decides, right, he gets a bee in his bonnet, he wants to get cocaine, No one can ever stop the trafficking, we know that. It's impossible. So if he just absolutely evaporates, Colombia's cocaine growing areas, which he could possibly do,
Yeah.
It does.
Who knows?
Yeah. Then you know that another sort of synthetic stimulant would have to take over, and the same has already happened with heroin and synthetic opioids. Okay, so slightly different thing has happened. The Taliban have gone, right, we're stopping cultivating poppy. So although there are stockpiles of heroin, and so we are still getting some heroin in the US, in the whole of North America, there is basically no heroin anymore.
Is that really it? Mostly just because Taliban won't know?
Well, no. The Taliban on one side is a major impact, but in the US, what happened is that the cartels decided it was cheaper for them to, instead of supply North America with heroin, it was cheaper for them to supply with synthetic opioids, fentanyl. So that's what it impacted North America. But in terms of more global picture, Afghanistan, which did sort of produce 90% of the world's heroin.
90%?
Yeah,
Did not know that.
So that's now sort of starting to impact the rest of the world. So you're starting to see things like fentanyl and nitazines pop up in the UK and in Europe. So I think heroin, we're already seeing that happening, the move from the plant to the synthetic. And then I think you're starting to get sort of mephedrone has taken over the drug trade in Russia, synthetic drugs.
Is there like a derivative though for cocaine? So obviously no heroin, they made fentanyl. If there's no coke, what would replace that?
I would say mephedrone.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so do you remember mephedrone from 2000?
MCAT.
Yeah. Meow, MCAT.
Yeah. I saw a lot of students that would always be on it.
Yeah, so it hit Britain and Europe and a bit of America as well, big time in sort of 2009, 2010. It was when the coke trade had sort of gone downhill a bit. And also the trade in ecstasy had gone down. It had been hit by various global events. But basically it was hard to get hold of good quality coke and ecstasy around the end of the 2000s. So what happened at the same time, you started getting the start of online drug dealing as well. And what they were selling was spice, which was a cannabis, synthetic cannabis, and mephedrone, which was synthetic cocaine stroke ecstasy, and everyone loved it. It was legal. It was cheap. You could get it delivered to your door in 48 hours. So there was absolute massive pile-on into everyone started to use mephedrone.
Were they getting that from like the dark net, or they were just ordering research chemicals?
Yeah. It was in the clear net and it was in the dark net as well. You could get it from it was very openly being sold because it was legal. It was people pretended it was bath salts and all this kind of business. And then suddenly the government was like, oh shit, everyone is off their tits on this drug, which is pretty much as strong as cocaine and ecstasy, and there's nothing we can do about it. So the government had to make these drugs illegal.
It's the same high, is it?
It's a sort of, mephedrone is a sort of a cross between cocaine and ecstasy in a way.
Okay.
And, there was some people said it's a lot moreish than cocaine. Some people say it smelled of cat's piss. So but I think originally the original mephedrone was a very popular drug, and I think since then it's been slightly downgraded, and now it's probably a bit more crappy if you're buying it. But the original stuff was pretty good. And so I think if cocaine did get stomped on at source, as I said, there's no way you can stop trafficking of cocaine, because now they're literally dissolving cocaine into everything possible, planks of wood, like shoes, tents, liquid, whatever,
What do you mean they dissolve it into it? How does that work?
So somehow in chemistry, you can dissolve cocaine into whatever you want to dissolve it into. I don't know how it works. And then once you've got your, say, plank of wood that you dissolved it to, transported across the ocean, then you can extract it. So this is like chemistry. So
you add some other ingredient.
Yeah, you use chemistry to get the coke in there, to impregnate it in a way, and then you use chemistry to extract it. And it's really hard for the authorities. Obviously, if they find a brick of cocaine, they know what it is. But if they're finding a plank of wood, for example, they don't know that it's impregnated with cocaine. So it makes it harder and harder to interdict. So that will never be stopped. So the only thing that the authorities can do is to obliterate Colombian cocaine growing, because most of the world's cocaine is grown in Colombia, and the only thing you can do is literally carpet bomb half of Colombia. But I wouldn't. 5 years ago, I would have gone, no one would ever do that. But I wouldn't put it past Donald Trump to carpet bomb Colombia's wilderness and where they grow it all, and then that would really have a massive impact, because you can't really grow coca leaf anywhere you want. It's a bit like Afghanistan in a way. Like, a lot of the world's heroin supply comes from there. A lot of the world's cocaine supply comes from Colombia.
Because of like the weather, the temperature.
Because of the weather, the temperature.
Soil.
Yeah, I mean, it's also grown in Bolivia and Peru as well, but the bulk of it is Colombia. So that's what I see as like being the main changes. There is the sort of the rise of synthetic drugs and also drug concoctions. Now you're getting all this like pink cocaine, for example. It's called pink cocaine.
What is that?
Yeah,
so just coke or not?
Yeah, it started off with this thing called 2C in Colombia, named after 2CB.
Different chemical compound.
But now what it basically is, it's really ketamine with a bit of MDMA in it, sold as pink powder. Sometimes it's sold as 2C, sometimes it's sold as pink cocaine. It's popular in Ibiza. It's massive in Spain now, and it's starting to creep into the UK. But yeah, and you're getting a lot of little concoctions like that, and you can imagine that, it's good for the Instagram generation. It's pink and it's like a branding, so everyone likes that sort of stuff at the moment. So soon you'll get some other drug which is like sort of bright yellow and it's called something else, and people will go for it.
It's like designer.
Yeah, exactly. So you're getting more and more of this mishmash of drugs, and that's what I see the sort of the modern drug trade as being, is this sort of this mishmash, this branding, a lot of them very synthetic, and sort of, again, synthetic drugs are a lot easier to make for a mass market. You make them cheap and you sell them cheap. It's like the food industry, yeah.
Right, like shitty chemical burger.
Exactly. And so it's cheaper to make, it's cheaper to distribute. You can make it anywhere. You don't have to grow it and wait for the plant. Flipping, when's this plant going to grow? You just bang in your laboratory. You make it within whatever, an hour. And then what's happened in Russia is you got loads and loads of people making methadone and other drugs in labs across Russia. So you don't have to transport it everywhere. You don't have to worry about it coming from Afghanistan or Colombia or being whatever. You just make it in labs in your local area. Vladivostok labs provide drugs for Vladivostok people, do you know what I mean? So that's the future of the drug trade that we're seeing now in Russia. Localized labs. And all this.
When you say lab, like it's not like Breaking Bad style, right? It's I saw one once and it was like in a shipping container, in someone's garden. It's mostly that.
Yeah, it's even more basic than that.
Really?
Like these days in Russia and increasingly in sort of Central and Eastern Europe as well, you're getting just random people like you and me. We got made unemployed, and we're just like, shit, what can we do? And it's like, oh, you look onto the internet, hey, make some money making drugs. And they got literally kind of Breaking Bad cartoon pictures.
All on Telegram, right?
Telegram, on the dark web, all the huge sites, very, very high quality, Disney quality videos being made saying, hey guys, this is the way to make money.
No way.
You can either become, it's a bit like almost like a gaming sort of thing.
Yeah.
Either become a dealer or a chemist.
Right.
So do you know what I mean? And so anyone can become a chemist. Methadone is really, really easy to make. It's a bit of that, do that, and the
cookies.
Yeah, and they also provide the precursors as well, the website. So they go like, here's a ready-made kit, drug making kit, get on with it.
Wow.
And you can then sell it back to us, and we'll sort of sell it using our drug dealers that we've recruited. We'll sell it in your sort of local area or whatever. So that's really interesting, and I think I can foresee that will grow globally, and it is already. I did a big piece of research end of 2024 into Russia's drug market with an expert in darknet markets, And we found out that this method of drug dealing, so which is basically you buy your drugs online on Telegram or on the dark web, and then you pay for it in crypto coin or whatever, and then you're also buying the location, the geolocation of where your drugs are secreted.
Drop.
Yeah, your dead drop. So you don't get it sent in the mail, because in Russia the mail is searched, it's unpredictable, it's unreliable, it's slow. So instead in Russia they dead drop it. So all over, say, Moscow at any one time, there's like hundreds and hundreds of drug dead drops all over.
That's crazy.
Everywhere. Yeah,
They do that with the precursor as well.
The precursors will be sent to the chemists probably by dead drop as well, rather than through the mail, because again, it's too risky. And again, you dead drop wholesale amounts of drugs as well for, that's how it's sort of, everything is done by dead drop.
It's all decentralised now, basically.
It's all decentralised.
Do they ever meet?
Yeah, but it's all run by a group of, at the moment, I think there's 5 major online drug platforms. One of them's called Mega, one of them's called Kraken, the original one used to be called Hydra, who they run Russia's drug market. They are the new drug overlords. All that sort of, the old gangsters, the Vori,
like the Russian mafia.
The tattoos.
Yeah.
That's pretty much sort of, they've exited the drug world pretty much. And the new people who run Russia's drug market are sort of nerds in a way.
Crazy.
Okay, yeah, so they're people behind screens and behind these on-screen personas of masks with videos. And they do almost like these sort of Andrew Tate style sort of manosphere videos about wise words and philosophy and
be a man, deal drugs.
Yeah, all this stuff. But, so it's really fascinating, and to me, I think it's starting to spread actually around. It's starting to spread to all the countries around Russia. It was massive in Ukraine before the war. The Russian soldiers fighting in Ukraine, in Donetsk and all that, they were able to buy drugs via this dead drop system, because they had people. I think there was a time in the beginning of the war where you were finding it hard to get food, but you could get drugs. You could get methadone, by these dead drops.
Yeah. I remember a decade ago now when I was in Ukraine at one point, and I kept seeing these, T.me/ or whatever, and I was like, their Telegram handles, why are their Telegram handles sprayed up on the walls? And the guy I was with was like, that's how they deal drugs here. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That was a decade ago, so I imagine it's gone crazy.
It has. Yeah. You can also do the, what the fuck are they called? Those things where you go donk with your phone.
Oh, QR codes. QR codes, Jesus.
Yeah, so they're all over. All over Russia now, on stickers, on lampposts, and it's schwank, buy drugs. And then there was even there's massive PR stunts that they do in Russia. Like they'll park up a van with their Kraken logo with a massive QR code on it, playing like rave music in Moscow's biggest thoroughfare. They're taking the piss out of Russia as well, out of the government. They're just going, you can't get us. Obviously, there's a bit of suspicion that maybe the government are somehow involved, or they go easy on them. Who knows? But yeah, it's a really interesting world, that whole.
That's crazy. So is there no violence within that? Because imagine if nerds are doing it, but they can hire people.
That's it. Is that when I say nerds, that these are probably, what I've been told, that these are probably people who have got degrees, and possibly degrees from London or Spain or France.
Specialists.
They're maybe the sons of oligarchs, that sort of thing. They're not your usual street gangsters. They're people who've been to school, been to college, and all that kind of stuff. So they don't get involved in kind of street gang wars, but the violence within this drug trade is because they do hire thugs. They're known in Russia as sportsmen, and they hire thugs to carry out punishment beatings to anyone who behaves badly. So that's the dealers that they send out, if they catch dealers taking drugs, or if the dealers are rubbish at their job, they're not good at hiding the drugs. For example, in the snow, obviously it snows a lot in Russia, if you're hiding drugs over by that tree over there, in the park, and you've got these little steps going up to it, and you don't cover your tracks, then you've got these other people, they're called, they're in the name of a bird, I can't remember what they're called. It's a special job in Russia where you steal dead drop drugs.
Okay. So like stick up kids, but right.
You basically go around looking in places that you think drugs might be sold, or you go for looking for footprints in the snow to a little tree or a little underneath a ledge or behind a thing, and then you nick the drugs
and then sell them yourself.
And you sell them or take them or whatever. Also, the hired thugs are also hired to track down these people as well. And what they do is I've seen a lot of the videos, and it's really disgusting actually. They don't just beat someone up, they maim them on camera and post up videos all over Telegram as warning. So you know, they also put this sort of dye, this sort of like weird sort of dye over people, this yellow dye which stains your skin for a long time, for like months. But they'll break people's arms, they'll break people's legs, they'll stab people in the face, all this stuff on camera as a warning, as in like, don't do this, otherwise this. So it's not like it's some happy clappy sort of like, hey, it's all sort of, no one knows each other, so no one meets each other, it's all done like this. There is a way of it being policed. And obviously also the cops, they now are aware of this going on, so they sort of lay in wait they're on the lookout for this. And obviously in Russia these days, you know, you're gonna get a big sentence if you're caught with drugs, aren't you? You know, it's not gonna be like in the UK, you get like, oh yeah, like if you do it again, we'll punish you. In Russia, it's like you're gonna get 6 years if you're caught with a stash.
What kind of money are they making? Is it the same as before, or is it a lot more now?
In Russia?
Yeah.
So in Russia, you're going to get a lot. You're going to get paid probably about like 3 or 4 or 5 times more than your average pay.
Right, so like a job.
Yeah. So and I think that's the issue. I think you know, Russia has got a problem with how much it pays people. You know, I don't think there's like a problem with how many jobs there are available.
It's just shit money.
It's just shit money. So if people want to sort of do a shortcut, which is obviously why a lot of drug dealers deal drugs, isn't it? If you want to take a shortcut, then it's quite tempting. And as I said, there's a lot of PR being built on these websites. This isn't some like guy coming up to you in a sort of a pub, or someone messaging you going, oh yeah, fancy this. Like, this is like proper PR and marketing, really persuasive, and saying literally like, you are going to be earning tons of money, trust us, we'll look after you, you're our man. It's way better marketing than the Russian government or big Russian corporates could ever do, and like a lot of it like quite impactful. So they recruit hundreds and hundreds and thousands of young Russian kids into this industry, either as a chemist or what they're called clad men. Clad is sort of Russian for like treasure. So they're called like, it's all about treasure hunts, dropping treasure.
Gamifying it all.
Yeah, gamifying it,
Crazy.
Yeah. So yeah.
Do you think that could come here, or have you seen that?
Well, it's started to sort of pop up here. Like the guy who I wrote the report with, he spotted in Liverpool where he lives, he spotted a QR code for it's called Breaking Bad, a website saying buy work as a dead drop drug.
Really? So it's already here?
So and I've there is that website here. It has expanded to a few countries in Europe, but mainly it's expanded. It's massive in South Korea now.
Why is that, do you think?
I don't know. I think because part of the reason why they do this in Russia, because there is this no contact drug dealing, is because of the lack of trust and the strictness of the regime. Right. So obviously it's really strict in South Korea. You know, we know that guy who starred in Parasite, which won an Oscar, he killed himself because he was caught with some weed. And the public shame of him he killed himself. Jesus. So it's a very strict regime in South Korea in terms of drugs. You know, a bit like sort of Japan as well, really.
Yeah.
And so it's more tempting to use technology as a barrier to human contact, because you don't know who you're dealing with. Is it a cop? Is it someone gonna dox you or whatever? So it's being used in that area. A lot of there's some Russian expats there. It's also big in Thailand as well. There's a lot of Russian expats using this service
everywhere,
there.
yeah.
So it's quite interesting that it's starting to expand. You know, it's obviously it's expanded out into Belarus, Georgia, you know, all these other Kazakhstan and stuff like that. So I can see this sort of creeping out, you know, globally because it's sort of, it works, it makes sense.
In terms of like your old school kind of crack heroin addicts,
Yeah.
like where are they in amongst all of this? Like I imagine they can't just go on Telegram and get their heroin and crack. Obviously it's a much different addiction. Are they kind of being left behind, as it were?
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, they are sort of getting used to buying it on
really?
Telegram.
Wow.
Yeah, they're not so much using sort of crypto coin and stuff like that, but they are buying over Telegram. You know, because anyone can have a bank account these days. You know, and so so they have been sort of moved into this as well. There's no real street trade in Russia now. So there's not people doing like what you see in this country of like line up in your local park for your local heroin and crack dealers. That's not very common in Russia now. They are also using the Telegram dead drops and all that kind of stuff.
That's fascinating.
It's mental, isn't it?
It's so interesting that the ingenuity of the drug trade is like unmatched. I feel like
it is, and Russians have always been way ahead of the West in terms of tech.
Even their hackers.
Yeah, they're original hackers, same with the Ukrainians. Their internet is brilliant in Russia. Everyone presumes that in Russia it's like, oh, I can't get the internet, whatever. It's better than...
That's what it's like here. I've got barely any signal in London.
Exactly. It's better in Russia.
Yeah.
And the apps have always been way ahead. And as you say, when it comes to drugs, the imagination and the entrepreneurial nature is very good. You know, we know that with the way people traffic drugs, you know, all the narco subs and all this kind of stuff, and always ahead of the game, always will be, always have been. And that's why sort of you will never ever stop the flow of drugs. It's impossible because the drug traffickers are always, and the dealers, they're always ahead of the game.
It's amazing. Like it's like every barrier they put up, they're like, over we go.
Easy. Like drones into prison. You put up, like all the sort of like the metal detectors and all the detectors and the searches and all this kind of stuff. And they're just like, well, we'll fly some drones in.
Yeah, you got to admire it in a way. I mean, I certainly do. Yeah. What about like dark web? Is that all gone? Like I used to be really very heavily focused on that. I actually did a piece for Vice back in the day. I travelled all the way, well, I won't say the countries, but I travelled from like one European country to North Africa with like a deep web drug dealer, and he showed me where he got it all. I kind of followed the whole route. Yeah. And it was so lively and so, active, and it seems to have just gone poof. Like a lot of them have been shut down.
Yeah, it's still going on. It's still going. I mean, a lot of them have been shut down, the big one, and a lot of them end up running off with the money, or they're shut down by the FBI.
Alphabet did that,
Yeah. And I think, but the dark world is still strong.
Okay.
And people are not only buying their own drugs on there, but they're buying sort of wholesale drugs as well. So
really,
a lot of dealers,
precursor.
a lot of dealers are buying wholesale sort of kilos or multiple kilos of cocaine or ketamine. So anyone can be a dealer now because you can buy your wholesale levels online, as well as people, students, whatever, going online to buy their ecstasy or whatever. So it's still going on, and I think now it's expanding more out to Telegram. So Telegram, like in Eastern Europe and Russia, Telegram, a lot more people are now buying their drugs on Telegram. Student drug dealers, they're all selling to students on WhatsApp. You never get anyone in the street or in a university wandering around going, who wants ecstasy? Everyone sells it on WhatsApp with cute little logos and cute little messages. It's all very friendly.
They get like they've all got the little bags for their like weed, and it looks like you get like a sweet or something, they just pull out like weed. I've got friends, I'm not into drugs or anything, but I know people who are. Yeah. And I'm like, what's that? And like, oh, it's a Cali pack. I'm like, what the fuck is a Cali pack? It's like, it's not cling film anymore. It's like a vacuum pack thing with a logo. And
It's crazy. That's purports to come in straight from California, medically. Some of it doesn't, some of it does. So that's what's that trying to, it's trying to mimic, this is the real deal. Right. It's grown under like medical government conditions in America. It's super strong
Advertising.
Yeah, it's sort of like marketing technique. It's like, this is straight off the boat, the way that they used to do with cocaine. This is like, the best Colombian, like this, that, and the other, and this is like, yeah, right. It's been stepped on so many times, like, so it's that, and that's what another interesting thing that legalization has done, as well as really increase the potency of weed in America. It's acted as a sort of a sales technique for weed sales in countries where it's not legal. But so and I think that's all part of this sort of method of buying drugs these days, which is done on WhatsApp. It's done in a very sort of cutesy friendly way, all this joking, like, oh, let's have a cup of tea, ooh, who's going to bring the hobnobs? I like, that's the way drugs are sold these days, like, obviously, like with the heroin and crack dealers, they don't get that same treatment. They get more like because they've all got burner phones, they just got one message going, oh, we're about brown and white, best in town, simple. Whereas the recreational dealers get all the nice little emojis.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and all the little chit chat and all the charm.
That's changed a lot. I remember, like, again, like, I've been around people that do drugs, Me, I'm not interested, but I'm not like, judgmental, whatever. So I was with a friend once and, like, he's buying weed, and even he bought weed, and the guy was just like rude, and I was like, I wouldn't, why you stand for that? He's like, oh, it's good weed, whatever. And then, like, a couple years later, I was with the same friend, and a guy pulls up in a car and he's like, yo, come here. And we're like, thinking, oh, he's going to offer like Coke or whatever. I was like, no, thanks. He's like, no, like, it's not that, go over. And he gives us a business card. Right. And it just says, party organizer. Yeah. And me, I was like, oh, what? And my mate was like, party organizer. I was like, oh, like it's a business card for a drug dealer. Yeah. I mean, it's like they're learning business techniques as well, right? Like interpersonally. Yeah. That surely is going to create, even though it's all online now, it must create different networks, like different kinds of people getting involved into the drugs world.
Yeah, and that's what's happened with even drug trafficking, like cocaine trafficking even. You don't have to be the old school kind of hard nut
roadman, and
you don't have to know a few people to get access to trafficking cocaine from Colombia. You can, you're a few handshakes away from knowing someone there. You don't have to, a lot of cases have seen that sort of anyone can get involved, and that goes with dealing as well. Like, as I said, you don't have to know a mate who knows a mate who imports cocaine into this country. You can buy kilos and kilos of cocaine online on the dark web. And a lot of people have got good like online skills, and there are a lot of people are buying crypto, and they're very used to walking this.
It's so easy now.
It's so easy, yeah. Like, and so anyone can be a drug dealer and a sort of a high-end drug dealer as well, and an importer. Anyone can do it. And I remember writing a story for Vice, I don't know, like sort of 8 years ago, something about how these business students from Leeds University ended up becoming like global drug dealers just because they had done a bit of business course, understood a little bit about profit and
so they're pretty good at it.
Export, and they were practicing out what they learned in their lectures.
Mad.
Because they were also online savvy, and they were thinking, actually, like, why don't we just bring in this coke? And they started dealing to everyone in Leeds, and obviously eventually they got busted. And these were like, I remember I had a chat with one of their parents. And they were really, really middle class. One of them was middle class posh kid, and it's that easy now for a middle class posh kid to get involved in an international drug smuggling network. So it's crazy. It's like it's democratized it.
Do kids, obviously kids like that are a lot more privileged than your kind of stereotypical drug dealer. Yeah. Do they get into it? Either is it because they're lazy, or it's just so much more money? Because I guess now we have this just get the bag culture. Like, I've never seen youth so obsessed with money. It's sad. But do you think it's like kind of the two go together? It's like this kind of lazy culture, or is it just, they just want adventure? Like, it just seems to, I'm like, if you were that kind of kid, why would you risk it?
Yeah, no, you're right. Like,
you don't need to.
Yeah. Because, I mean, obviously, most drug dealers I spoke to, They do it because to earn money, because it's a shortcut to earning money quickly.
Good money as well.
Yeah, good money as well. And a lot of drug dealers I spoke to who are more the higher end drug dealers, they do it because they want to send their kids to private school. It's really common, common. Yeah,
really?
It is like a lot of sort of people who are earning decent money from drug dealing, their kids are in private school.
Wow, you wouldn't think that. I don't know.
Yeah,
why.
it's like they want to sort of, they don't want their kids to have to do what they did or to be grown up like that. They want their kids to be elevated.
Right.
And I don't blame them, you know, because some people are trapped, you know, like they're trapped in poverty, and they see themselves as short-circuiting the system, and by selling drugs and getting involved in the drug world, maybe drug trafficking too, they're doing that, and they're getting their kids into a public school that probably the same public school that the kids used to sort of spit at them when they were being seen in the street. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, you dirty little good women.
Yeah, chav and all that fucking shit. Yeah.
So there is that money thing definitely, but there is also that sort of renegade thing as well, and the adventure, you know, status as well. All that is not just the money. I think some people they find themselves locked out of the mainstream economy. They don't want a boring job. They don't want to, you know, and so they do want something different. They want something that sort of floats their boat, that is risky, that is high octane, that is exciting, that is interesting, you know, as well, you know, like, and a lot of people are really good at it as well. A lot of these, you know, some of them are completely stupid, like everyone. Some of them are very intelligent, and they're really, really good at it. They're very good at the charming thing. They're really good operators in terms of judges of character, in terms of working with other people. So I think they're part of it is definitely sort of not just the money, it's the excitement and the adventure, and that's probably what drags in, say, some, you know, obviously like middle class people like, what's his, Howard Marks, you know, he got dragged into it. He probably didn't need the money, but he liked the excitement.
It was fun for him.
Yeah. And I've met a few people like that, you know, almost like gentleman drug dealers. You know, they're almost like they're old-fashioned Victorian adventurers going into Africa or whatever. And you get the same sort of people who, you know, these amazing, I mean, a lot of them are like Cockney guys actually, but a lot of these amazing people who have got involved in yachts and sailing cocaine across the Pacific from South America in these yachts. That
would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, it's
fun.
insane, isn't it? Like, it's like, it is proper adventuring, like, and it's massive risk, you know, for huge rewards. And you know, this is not doesn't happen so much these days, those adventurer coke yachtsmen from like Billericay or whatever, who like, but it does still happen, you know, a lot of cocaine now comes over in big container ships and all that kind of stuff. But you have got these old sort of, you know, gentleman adventurers, and when they get caught, they're like, fuck, I got caught, I gave it a go.
Yeah. Tally ho. Are they less likely to get caught, do you think, just because of the stereotyping of drug dealers, or have the police kind of caught up?
Yeah, I think the police probably, you know, there were so many yachts coming over full of cocaine. I think the police were a bit like, hold on a minute, they get a bit more organised across the ocean, and there was a lot of them getting caught in the 1990s. A lot of the times they would get caught because their yacht would flounder, and they would have to do a flipping SOS.
Flare up. With a boat full of coke. Exactly. I think I just drowned.
Yeah, exactly. And there's been a few people caught like that. It's just like really, obviously a bit embarrassing. It's a bit like, but ultimately it's like, I'd rather be rescued with all my coke than drown.
At the bottom,
So the police did sort of get used to that, but you know, and that's why sort of now you get sort of you get lots of other different ways of, you know, you get what they do is they park up the boat a bit further out in the sea, further away from the coast, and then they'll get another speedboat to come and collect it, and all sorts of different things. And then they'll drop cocaine off the big container ships off there, and then the people go and get it. There's also another new method called parasite smuggling, where there's a big container ship waiting, say in Brazil, in a port. and what a diver will go and up to the underneath the waterline. There's this little part of the ship where you can sort of open a hatch and you can stick the cocaine in there and close it, and then the ship sails to, say, Australia, to Sydney, and then you'll have your divers at Sydney's port. They'll dive out there and go and open the hatch and grab the cocaine.
They're in communication the whole time, and the ship doesn't know?
No, the ship has no idea. Yeah.
Unsuspecting smuggling.
Yeah. Wow. It's called parasite smuggling.
So, of course, right, like latching on.
Yeah.
That's so clever.
Yeah.
It's such a big network as well. How do you get that many? I guess, do you see people that, I guess you do, but I mean, like, are people learning certain skills just to be better at the drug dealing? Like, they say, right, learn to snorkel.
Yeah, no, that's it. Like, you know, a lot of these people, or they will recruit. I mean, there was this one Brazilian expert diver who was found floating dead in a harbour in Sydney. I'm not quite sure why he died, but somehow he must have messed up when he was retrieving the coke, or someone had killed him. I can't quite remember whether it was a murder inquiry, but his body was found. It was like, why is a Brazilian diver, and you know all those people who climb up cliffs, you know, so he's like extreme sports guy. Why is this guy found floating in a harbour in Sydney with a scuba thing on? And they found out that he had been employed specifically to go and do this job. He'd given the plane tickets to fly to Sydney because he already had skill as a diver and an extreme sports guy, and you know what I mean? So I'm sure some people are probably trained up for it, but what they do is they probably recruit from the expert diving community. But yeah, it's just another example of how the drug trade recruits from everywhere. You know, that it's white collar. You know, the huge explosion of cocaine into Europe in the last 10 years. Yeah? That's another thing that's changed since I wrote the book. It's absolutely just gone mental. You know?
Would they say now that Europe's like the drug capital of the world, kind of? Is that true?
Yeah, Europe is the biggest cocaine market in the world.
So it's the biggest consumer.
Yeah. It used to be America was the biggest cocaine market. Now it's Europe.
Wow.
So you know, since Colombia's peace agreement with the FARC, that sort of decentralized a lot of the drug trafficking from Colombia. It became a sort of a free-for-all. So, and a lot of the traffic was sent to Europe, and you had a lot of European criminal gangs like the Albanians and a lot of other Serbians, and you've got the Dutch Moroccans, Belgian Moroccans, and the Italian mafia, the 'Ndrangheta, who have become the biggest mafia in the world on the back of the European cocaine trade, nothing else.
So it's like setting up franchises, kind of.
Yeah. So and that has hugely changed the sort of the gang scene in Europe, because they've all got rich from cocaine profits, because it's a very profitable drug. It's a lot more profitable than any other drug. A lot more profitable than smuggling weed or heroin.
Why is it so much profitable? Is it just
a markup? Just a pure markup.
You can cut it a lot.
The grand a kilo in Colombia and the sort of 30 grand a kilo as soon as you get it into the UK or whatever, you know. So it's just a massive markup. So obviously that's why a lot of legalizers say the only thing that makes the drug trade so profitable is prohibition. You know, like that's what fuels organised crime. And so Europe has turned into, you know, there's a lot of street crime in Sweden now when there never used to be.
Wild there.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And the same goes for Belgium and Holland as well. People are starting to talk about narco states there. I think narco state is a bit over the top, but there's a build-up of corruption, and even in places like Germany. I wrote a piece recently for Unheard about the rise of the 'Ndrangheta in Germany via the pizza restaurant. So they're using pizza restaurants as a sort of a way in of sort of expanding their cocaine trafficking networks and money laundering networks. And there was one drug gang who managed to corrupt a senior prosecutor in Hamburg. So he's on trial at the moment in Germany. They managed to get hold of him. So,
what was he doing? Was he like letting people go, or?
Yeah, he was warning gangs about raids.
Okay.
He was being paid like £5,000 a month or something like that to warn them basically and to help them
How did they get him? Do you know? Like, how did they? Was he buying coke or something?
I think it was probably an ethnic sort of friends of friends.
Okay.
You know, brothers, sisters, brother. Yeah. So I think it was sort of through that. But when you've got in a country like Germany, which everyone presumes is the most absolute stand-up, reliable democracy in the world, sort of thing, when you've got senior prosecutors getting corrupted by drug gangs. That's when it starts getting interesting. You think, what is going on?
That happened there.
That's not normal.
They love their rules as well.
Yeah. That's not normal. Like, and so I think that's really interesting how cocaine is starting to corrupt Europe.
It's really interesting in terms of who controls what now as well. Like, has that changed? I know, just from where I live, from what I hear, like so-and-so did that, and you're like, what? Like, I thought the Albanians controlled that, and oh no, the Albanians don't control that anymore. Is it we seeing like a kind of shift in the kind of stranglehold?
Well, yeah, it's really a free-for-all.
Right.
Like, you know, it really is. You know, originally the sort of the Drangheta was sort of really had a stranglehold on it, and everyone's
in
still...
England?
Well, in Europe.
Oh, okay.
In Europe. But yeah, and the Albanians were big in Europe as well, you know, not just the UK, but yeah, the Albanians are definitely big figures in the cocaine trade and the weed trade in the UK. You know, they're still big in the UK. They're also like in charge of a lot of the cannabis farms as well. They've got huge, and part of this is because they've got big contacts in Ecuador. You know, most of Europe's cocaine at the moment comes from via Ecuador. There's a big port in Ecuador with a name beginning with G, which I can't pronounce. and that's sort of run by the Albanians. And so they've got like, so they don't have to bother sort of like speaking to other groups or gangs. They've got like direct, like from Ecuador.
Right.
And so they've been quite influential in countries like the UK because they've got an endless supply of cocaine, most of it coming through the northern ports like Antwerp and Rotterdam. So they are still big. But you know, in terms of Europe, you know, as I said, it's the Italians, it's the Balkan, the other Balkan guys, you know, the Serbians, you know, the Montenegro and Montenegrins are massive in it as well. Then you've got the sort of diaspora from sort of North Africa and places like Morocco who came over a long time as guest workers, you know 20, 30 years ago. Within those communities in Northern Europe, you do have some people who are criminals, like within any community.
Of course,
any community. Same with the Italians in Germany. You know, you've got a big wave of Italian guest workers moving over to Germany, and some in that community will be naughty people. Do you know what I mean?
Imagine if they sent a load of Brits somewhere. I'd be like, leave my mates at home. Just let them die.
But I mean, just check out Spain. You know, check out the Costa del Sol and Marbella and all that. I mean,
look where they go to.
Quite a high proportion of those guys there. You know. Quite a high proportion, I'm probably exaggerating it, but you know, it's not unknown for British criminals to hang out in Marbella.
Costa del crime, isn't it? They called it. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's still going on. You know, and there's Swedish gangster influence in Marbella. You know, I think the mayor of Marbella, this woman, she was married to a Swedish gangster. So Europe, thinks it's so different from South America or Eastern Europe or whatever. But Europe is slowly sort of getting sort of dragged into this world. And that's what I find really interesting at the moment is what's going on with that and the impacts of that and the fear of obviously money laundering, corrupting businesses, corrupting politicians. You start to get that gangster creep.
And I guess as well it creates kind of inter-country gang wars outside of those countries, right? Because if you have like Albanians here and then, the people from Sweden want to move their drugs through it, they might end up having some kind of clash and, you know what I mean?
I think that sometimes happens, but what was the interesting thing that was revealed by the EncroChat and the Sky ECC. So that's
Those encrypted phones.
Yeah, the police
Encrypted.
busting the criminals' encrypted phone system. So where they used to message each other to arrange drug deals, basically. When the police busted that, I think it was 2020, and they're still going through the court. People are still being busted and taken to court for that. When the police busted that and analysed all the data, apart from arresting loads of people, what they found is that the main drug gangs in Europe were highly connected and cooperative with each other.
All working together.
All working
Okay,
together, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and in some cases they actively worked for peace with each other. You know, they'd meet up with each other and go, hey, guys, let's not do this.
Let's make money instead.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the police are always thinking gangsterism equals violence, heavy violence, when that's not really the case. There's hardly any gangster-led violence in Italy at the moment, for example, yeah? The mafia just gone like, let's not do this, yeah? Let's make money. That goes with all the other groups as well. It's just like, less is bad for business. And that's also the same reason why they cooperate with each other, is because, look, it's easier to cooperate than fight or compete, and they're all working together. Like, a big, huge, I don't know, let's say like a 20-ton shipment of cocaine coming from the Americas to Europe, probably that shipment, you'll probably have a fifth going to the Albanians, a fifth going to the Drangheta, a fifth going to the Dutch Moroccans, a fifth going to the Hanrahans, or whatever, you know, like, so it's all divvied up, they're all working together, you know. Remember, there was the Hanrahans, you know, they're based in Dubai at the moment. There was one of them, Daniel Hanrahan, he got married to his sweetheart in the Al Burj Hotel in something like 2017, and at that wedding was representative of every single drug gang in Europe.
Really?
Yeah, like the Italian...
Just the Irish gangster, right?
Yeah. Hanrahan. He was recently spotted at a boxing event in Dubai.
Isn't he meant to be on the run?
Yeah, he's on the run.
He's just chilling.
The American government got a wanted, you know, $5 million or whatever, and he's just hanging out in a flipping fedora or whatever at a high-profile boxing event at a massive stadium in Dubai. And yeah, recently, I think it was the Times did a story about that. They'd done some sort of, you know, like what they call it, OSINT, whatever you call it, with
how is he able to do that? Like, is he paying off someone at a high level, or?
Yeah, I mean, the suspicion is that that's the case. Yeah. Why haven't Dubai passed this guy over? I mean, they have been passing more people than they used to. Dubai is not as safe for gangsters as it used to be, because some guys are being sent back. But you probably think that the Hanrahans, they're so embedded in the business world, the property world, and the crime world. They have a lot of influence.
Boxing a lot too.
Boxing too, yeah. I mean, that, you know, obviously Hanrahan was the main. He was the manager of what's the guy?
Tyson Fury.
Yeah. Which was one of the main reasons why the US got sick of him. They were like, he's now running events in major boxing events in the US, and he's a flipping cocaine trafficker. We've had enough.
Right.
And Tyson Fury there was a famous sort of tweet or whatever he did, or some sort of like TikTok or something, where he goes, you know, this is all thanks to Daniel Hanrahan.
Yeah.
And that's when that's when the authorities were like, oh, right, okay.
Why would he do that, though? Is that just for the status of being like, fuck you? Because to me, I think if you're the level he's at, the amount of millions he has, surely you just lie low.
No, but he loves boxing too much.
Yeah, he just has to get back.
And if I was employed by the cops or whatever, I would go, okay, who is this person? Right? Okay, his number one thing, he's obsessed with boxing.
Right.
So if you're going to try and find him, you find him at where he loves, the thing that he loves most.
Boxing matches.
At flipping boxing matches. And you don't find him at any old boxing matches. You find him at the big boxing matches in Dubai. You know, because all his, you know, for years and years, even in Ireland, I think he was involved in boxing, and I think that's where they recruited their little street dealers from boxing clubs. And then in Spain, he had his own MGM or something it was called, his own boxing thing. And then in Dubai, he's involved in boxing. You know, he's involved in boxing in Pakistan. Like, so he's obsessed with it, and that's his number one love. You know, like, and he was willing to risk getting caught for his love of boxing, you know.
He must love that vibe though, knowing like they're trying to get me and they can't touch me.
Yeah,
he must love that.
Yeah, yeah, and also I think his dad, Christie, he was caught again by the Sunday Times or whatever. He was caught leaving. He loves leaving Google reviews of restaurants and shops.
With his own name?
Yeah.
Incredible.
And he's just like, I didn't like that fucking cheese pasty. It's not crispy enough on the outside. Yeah, cheers, Christy Hanrahan. And someone tracked all his Google
So he's
reviews.
just putting a dots wherever he's been.
Yeah. And so they still haven't been caught.
Yeah.
They're quite blatant. They seem to be swanning around. And, you know, in a way, obviously, you know, they have been involved in massive shooting spree in Spain and in Ireland about 10 years ago or whatever. But in another way, you've got to, they're deadly people. But in a way, you've sort of got to admire their fucking chutzpah and the way they do things and the way that the world is supposedly against them and trying to find them, and they're swanning around doing what they want.
There's no way the world is against them trying to find them if they can be found so easily and are not getting caught, you know. And like you said, whether okay, let's forget about moral whatever. They were very good at what they did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? like the best, some of the stuff I read about was like, wow, incredible. Still though, it's got to be pretty endemic for if you're in Dubai and, you know, Dubai is trying to, you know, change its image, and despite doing all this horrible stuff, there's got to be more than just people in Dubai that are getting paid out by them. You know, it's got to be, because they travel around and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that Dubai is definitely their bolt hole, and I don't think they couldn't live in many other places in Europe. I don't think. Right. You know, maybe they might get away with living in Albania or Serbia or something, but like, you know, it's, you know, I do generally think that the Americans and the Europeans, you know, Interpol, Europol, all that lot, they are desperate to get them. I think they are probably being protected by deals that they've made with very probably royalty in Dubai. I think that's what's protecting them. I don't know if it's like, for example, the DEA or the Irish police or anything. I don't know if they're sort of compromised in getting them. Otherwise, I don't know. It might be the case, but I reckon they're in Dubai for a reason, because they're protected in Dubai. And a lot of people had thought they had fled to other Middle East countries or other Asian countries, but that's why it was so shocking that they're just still hanging around in Dubai. And Dubai is everyone sees Dubai as this sort of like, oh my God, it's just like so great, blah, 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 you know. But it is like gangster's paradise still. Yeah. You know, it still is a gangster's paradise, and like so many cases that were got during the EncroChat bust. So many people were in Dubai ordering their minions around in the UK, go and shoot this person, go and pick up that drug, sitting literally from a pool in Dubai, because they're showing off, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like, I'm in Dubai, you lot are in the flipping rain in Yorkshire or whatever. You go and do your shit and I'll reel in the money. Yeah.
It's funny though, because I think like Dubai, it almost reflects like the quote unquote legal world, because if you get caught with like an ounce of weed in Dubai, like goodbye, you're in prison forever.
Yeah.
But if you make so much money that you can bring millions into the country, you can literally be an international drug dealer and sit pretty. And it's kind of the same with, like, I look at it like, imagine you do something dodgy with your tax and you maybe save 10 grand, you're in big trouble. Yeah. But if you're a millionaire, you can pay someone to do the dodgiest shit and you're fine. Yeah. It's like, I mean, it's almost, I don't get what our point is really, but it's almost like, it's all illegal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like wherever you're at.
Yeah, no, true. And it mirrors a lot of the real world, the drug world. You know, the drug world is the real world, just with a little slight shift on it. So, you know, like, again, like, you know, all the people on the front line, all the lowest grade people are always the people who get screwed, who get prisoned, who get beaten, who get their lives ruined and all that, who have less choice. They're always the people who are going to get it. You know, all the kids like running around doing county lines and in trap houses and all that. Obviously, they're showing off to their school friend kids their money they're making, but they're probably going to get screwed over at some time, whether it's by maybe stabbed by someone, some sort of rival or in an argument, or they're going to get arrested and their chances of getting a job is going to be ruined. You know, it's the same like with, I don't know, like a business owner having to pay tons of insurance and because they're doing things the right way, and they have to go under because they can't run their business because they're sticking to the law, whereas the guy doing it illegally is untouched, can get away with it, is going to make money and starts to thrive. You know, it's the same in the drug world. You know, the guys who are like, they are sort of almost people who do seem to be like untouchable because they can flee where they want, they can operate where they want. You know, I'm a major drug dealer. You can't get me. Like, where's your evidence? I will sue you. Whatever. You know, so like. It is like it's always the lowest frontline people who always get screwed in the drug world. You know? The prison's full of little kids, and especially in America.
Yeah, it's great. And then meanwhile, everyone from the lower end to the higher end, just everyone's on drugs. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, everyone seems to take drugs. It doesn't seem to be a specific demographic, whether it's like posh kids doing coke or like, you know, some addict on the street that's homeless. It just seems to me like everyone is doing drugs. Has that got worse, or is it just a perception?
Yeah, I think the official statistics sort of 1 in 10 people use drugs, sort of thing like that. But you know that because that's the official statistics, it's probably an absolute minimum, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
And I think that these days, like, more and more drugs get normalised. So over the last 20 years, we've seen cocaine become normalised from a sort of crazy sort of drug that no one could really afford. Oh, that's really weird, like, oh my God, you snorted cocaine, to now cocaine is like dog and duck, builders after work.
Journalists.
Kid journalists, yeah. Kids at Eton. It's an anyone drug. You know, you can get cheap cocaine, expensive cocaine. It's an anyone drug. It's normalised. Yeah, it's in song lyrics all over the place. Then now you've got even like drugs like ketamine is being normalised. It used to be a wacky, crazy drug. Oh my God, you're taking ketamine, K-hole. Now it's a very normalised drug, especially amongst Gen Z. And then now you're getting psychedelics have become normalised. Again, you know, back in the day, it used to be like taking acid or taking mushrooms, quite an extreme thing and a rare thing that people do. Now, a lot of people are taking it for like wellness. You know, so
microdosing.
Like microdosing.
Yeah.
They're having it in chocolate and in, you know, edibles. So again, psychedelics that usually were a bit beyond the pale for a lot of people because they didn't want to take some massive dose because they're scared. Now you can have it in tiny little doses that you're literally munching on, and it's a bit like smoking a spliff in a way, as in like you can have a toke, you can have 2 tokes. If you feel stoned, you stop toking. It's the same with mushrooms and LSD and DMT and all this stuff. You can just have it little bits and bobs and just to get to that perfect high. So,
and they have the different marketing as well, I think. They feel better about doing it like that as well.
No, completely. I mean, I've heard 2 people on Desert Island Disc talk about microdosing mushrooms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so as musicians feel open enough to go, or book writer or authors to go, hey, I microdose, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's illegal.
Yeah.
You know, but it's people feel comfortable enough to say, I take effectively psilocybin every day. Who's going to trouble me? You know, no one.
But that bothers me in a way because I think do what you want. I don't care. But it's the way that. And I shouldn't really stereotype, but I imagine those kind of people wouldn't consider themselves anything like the youth who smokes weed on his way to school or the guy that's, you know, doing a bit of coke on the weekend. It's like, you are part of that same thing. I just feel like it's almost like, again, marketing.
Yeah.
They feel better about themselves. Well, I don't use drugs.
Yeah.
Well, you do.
Yeah, no, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's all the drug market, you know.
Yeah.
And it obviously, if it's wellness, you know, ketamine now is a big wellness drug in the US, but it has sparked a rise in illegal ketamine use. So they all sort of, they keep on sparking each other off, you know, like different types of usage are kind of copied and mirrored across society. So yeah, it is all one big drug market, and who knows, who knows where your drug dealer has got their drugs? Have they bought it off the darknet market? Have they bought it? Was it brought over by a drug mule? No one really knows where they get their drugs from. But I presume that if you're buying, you know, mushroom edibles or whatever, you probably think that it's made by some hippie guy in a lovely lovely room and with being really careful, but you don't really know. No one ever knows where it's coming from.
Yeah, it's fascinating to just see that matey might get nicked with his like 10-bit of weed, but like the guy can just brag about doing it on desert island discs. You know, it just, I don't know, it seems very unfair. And I mean, I'm not like, I'm not like saying, oh, everything should be legal or whatever, but it feels like it's almost becoming normalized to the point where do you think it's going that way? Things are going to be made more legal or not?
Yeah, it probably is going.
Particularly here.
Yeah, it probably is going that way. That is the sort of the stream is going in that direction. It's almost like it was slowly going to happen. It is slowly happening in Europe. And obviously in America, there were some trials of decriminalization. It didn't go very well. So it's gone a bit backwards in America. But I think that is the direction of travel in the West. I think obviously in places like Russia, Japan, Pakistan, like it's not the case.
No,
you're never going to get that. But I think the general sort of thing with drugs these days is that the drug is everyone. I wrote this Substack actually. Like everyone uses drugs.
Yeah.
So not everyone just takes drugs, but like everyone can use drugs to their own ends. So and that involves governments. And so I think prohibition sort of benefits the authorities because they can use drugs against things they don't like.
Yes.
So, for example, Trump invading Venezuela on the back of your drug trafficker, yeah? So that was the excuse. That was the flag they waved. It was the drug war, yeah? Complete bullshit. They're after the oil.
Exactly.
Yeah? So drugs are the banning of drugs, the global prohibition of drugs is used as an excuse to do some shit by Donald Trump. Yeah? And obviously, and at the same time, he was accusing Maduro of being involved in the drug trade. He had pardoned another drug trafficker from another South American country, I think possibly Bolivia, who had been sentenced to something like 20, 30 years for cocaine trafficking while in charge of Bolivia or whatever. He just pardoned him.
Wow.
So it's obviously he doesn't sort of care about the drug war. He just uses the drug war. And I think that's been used, like, it's used by police all over the world. It's certainly used by American police in squashing down, like, black American youth. It has been...
Putting crack into the neighborhoods.
Yeah, like, it's drugs is used as a tool to achieve various aims. So when you're asking me, will drugs become legalized? There is, I think, some sort of vested interest. There is a use in drugs being prohibited because it enables the authorities and the state to achieve various goals.
I think it keeps other businesses going as well. I was reading a piece about how they're using ketamine for trials and helping people with PTSD. Yeah. And I believe it's ketamine, right? It's been quite successful. Yeah. But then some people can't even, in the medical industry, can't even get the license to be able to test and experiment to see what will work. Meanwhile, you can still just buy your antidepressants and all this other stuff. And not to be conspiratorial, but it just makes sense if your business is like, well, if they keep doing that and they come up with something else, you're not going to need this anymore. So then goes down a revenue stream. And I mean, I don't know if that's the way, but surely business is business, right? Yeah. And if they just see it as like one other thing, I can't imagine until they get a hold of it, they'll say you can use it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think in America...
It's got to work for them.
Yeah, in America it has become big business.
Yeah, like the medicinal weed and all of this.
Yeah, medicinal weed, medicinal ketamine, it's big business. And as soon as you can monetize it, then it's great. I mean, I think in this country at the moment, the ketamine therapy and all that sort of stuff, it's only just starting off, and it's only really rich people who can afford it, because it's not, none of this stuff is like prescription or anything. Like, you've got to be a private person to do it. So at the moment, it's like, it's not a fair way of, not everyone can get hold of this miracle cures and all this kind of stuff. But I think, I'm definitely someone who thinks that, hey, before we start going into sort of using drugs as a therapy, we need to get some basic stuff sorted out with mental health.
Yes, yeah,
and
100%.
People just getting basic access to mental health services in this country before we start wanging on about sort of, ketamine or LSD or what psilocybin can do. I think we've got to get some basics done first for the population.
No.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, I agree fully. It's like, why do you keep focusing on loads of remedies instead of like, well, why do we need the remedy? Because this is all fucked up. Like, try and stop it first. My one of my sisters works as a paramedic, and she was saying to me, like, so many of her cases she had to pass on. It was like a mental health issue thing, and she said it's just so dangerously understaffed, underfunded. Like, and there's a lot of people recurring, not because necessarily they're getting worse. They don't even know if they are, because they've just not been seen. You know, yeah, I agree. It's a real shame. Where can people find all your work on this? Like, it's so, I could speak for hours on this.
Right,
it's so fascinating to me. Where's the best place for people to like hit you up or read your work, what you're doing?
Okay, so I've started up a Substack called Max Daly.
.substack.com,
yeah. And I mainly write stuff for Unheard, for The Guardian, and I'm on Twitter, Narcomania, I think it's called. Yeah, as I said, I I've got a thing coming out soon on Belgium's organised crime scene, which I wrote with a colleague of mine. But yeah, and something coming out about cookering for The Guardian.
Okay, thank you so much, Max. Really appreciate it.